and welcome to how I make sourdough bread. Now, it's not necessarily the right way or the only way. In fact, it's definitely not the only way, but it is just my way. I've been doing it for about 5 years and keep slightly adjusting the method, and this is where I've got to. First thing you need is your starter. Starter is wild yeast. This was actually given to us by an artisan bakery in Shoreditch. I keep it in the fridge in a plastic container so that when one day you drop it, it doesn't break and ruin your starter. And when I want to use it, the night before, I will mix 50 grams of organic rye flour and 50 grams of water, leave it out at room temperature overnight, and in the morning it's all bubbly like that. Organic rye flour. Organics are very important. I lost my first starter, and I think the reason was because I wasn't using organic rye flour, and the pesticides in the flour killed the yeast slowly over a period of time, and that's food for thought. Now, once you've fed your starter and it's nice and fizzy and bubbly, the next thing I do is make a thing called a poolish. So you want to get yourself some scales that measure in increments of 1 gram. Because once you've got your formula right, you want to be able to reproduce it. So it has to be accurate. So you're going to make 300 grams of poolish. So that's 100 grams of your starter. Starter. And use a spoon, a cleaner spoon. It does take a minute to get it exactly right. There we are, 100 grams, bang on. Then once you've got your 100 grams of starter, you need 100 grams of flour. Now I use a variety of different flours, really whatever I can get my hands on at the time. At the moment I'm using that there, which is Italian 00. It has to be strong bread making flour. You can get Manitoba, which is about the strongest Canadian flour. That's pretty good. But you know, to me, I think they're it's good to have a change. Shop around, see what you can get. Right, so that's 100 grams of flour, now 100 grams of water. So we're getting 300 grams in total. It's hard to take the water out, so try and get that right. There we are. Mix it up. Yeah, so you've now got a paste, a bit like wallpaper paste. See? And you've got that. I use plastic bowls because they're light, cheap, seem to last forever. Once you've got that, pop a shower cap on it. Shower caps. Now, there's an expensive way of getting shower caps, which is paying for hotel rooms, and there's a cheap way, which is buying about 100 of them from Amazon. And since I did that, life got cheaper and I hadn't run out. So you just leave that at room temperature. Now, if I did this first thing in the morning, I would just leave it at room temperature while I was out at work, over there or somewhere. And when I came back in the evening, it would have gone bubbly and lively. Just like this one I prepared earlier. Well, have a look if you're interested. There you go, it's a bit bubbly. And now we can make our dough. So, zero the scales. So, first thing to do is put in some salt. I knew I had some somewhere. So, I want 9 grams of salt. The more salt you put in, the less it will rise, because the salt acts as a metabolic inhibitor. But I don't actually find the amount of salt that goes in too critical, but 9 grams is what I aim for. Now this is going to be really wet. It's going to have 300 millilitres of water. You don't, in my experience, you don't want to put more than 300 in. because the weight of the dough will make it sag when you bake it ultimately. And then 500 grams of your flour. I've measured this out already, save the hassle, so that should be right. There you go, so that goes in there. Then, got to mix it up. Good old mix. It's a very wet dough. You can actually start with less. You can make the first loaf with 250 millilitres of water, just to make it drier and easier to manage, and then you can experiment by increasing the water. Why do you want to do that? Well, because you're aiming to get a loaf that is very moist, that's properly cooked, but you know, you can almost make it like a crumpet. It's so spongy. So there we are, that's mixed up there. Turn my scales off, because otherwise I go through the batteries very quickly. And then we're going to knead it. Right, now kneading a wet dough is a bit messy. You want to, I mean, I don't know if you've done it before, but my mum taught me to make bread with industrial yeast, you know, dried yeast, baker's yeast. And the dough is really quite springy and dry. This isn't, look at this. So you're going to spread it out. So what you're doing is you're breaking up the proteins and reorganising them into long tangled strings that make it flexible and bubbly. So I'm going to be doing this for 15 minutes. What I didn't do was set my timer, because I'm using my phone which has my timer on it as a camera, but I'm going to have to time it using my clock there. So it's not going to be as accurate. But as I said, it's good for these things to be accurate, so that you can repeat them exactly every time. And normally I'll set a stopwatch, I'll watch it count down, and as soon as it goes bleep, I will stop. This time I'm going to have to watch the clock. So I'll listen to the radio, do a bit of singing, whatever really. Normally have a drink handy of one description or another. So I'll be doing this after work, because I've designed it to fit in with my working day. So this is white flour. If you wanted to use wholemeal, that would be a different recipe entirely. So you can see I'm just spreading that out, and now it's getting mixed up. You can see the consistency is changing already. It's becoming more pliable. So you can see I'm just spreading that out, and now it's getting mixed up. You can see the consistency is changing already. So I must be now up to about 10 minutes. Yeah, so I'm into the last 5 minutes. And all of a sudden you can feel that the dough is becoming more gluey. It stretches out more. It actually starts to make a different sound. It starts to clean your hands. But as you can see, it's quite a physical workout. Right, so now look at that. Okay, so I reckon I've finished. You can see how elastic this is. Look. So, just pop that back in the bowl. put the shower cap back on it. Oh. And put that in the fridge for 24 hours. So what happens after that? Well, it just so happens that I've got one here that I prepared earlier. 24 hours later, it's going to look like this. Sort of domed pile. Just grab my scraper thing. Come out quite cleanly. On some flour. Fold it. See what I'm doing there? Folded it in two directions into the middle. So if you're packing a tent, stick that upside down on it, leave it for 30 minutes. So I'm going to go and do something else. See you back here in 30. Here I am again. It's been half an hour. Did you miss me? Flatten the dough out. Fold it into the centre that way. Fold it into the centre that way. That way. Then that way. Press it down. It's called a baker's fold apparently. There you go. See you again in another half an hour. I'm back. It's been another half an hour, and so we are going to put our dough in the proving basket. So first thing I'm going to do is dust it. You can see it's not amazingly clean. Having a little bit of flour left over from the last time does help the flour to stick to the sides of the proving basket. And it's all going to be cooked at over 200 degrees. It's all perfectly hygienic. And that's that. So now the art of folding your dough to go in the proving basket. Flatten it out, try and keep it into a symmetrical kind of shape. Fold in the corners, fold in the top. Don't trap air inside it. Fold in the corners, fold in the top. Press it down, fold in the corners, fold in the top. The idea of this is to put tension into the dough. You'll see why. Then after that one, put that corner right round and that one right round, so it's stretching it right over, then the middle, stretch it right over the top, as far round as you can reasonably go. Press it down to secure it, and well, it's not perfect, very artisanal. Pick it up by the seam, drop it in there, shower cap, which I believe you can recycle with your plastic carrier bags when they've had enough. And that goes in the fridge. Now, this would be done one evening, and then I would leave this particular flour in for that night, then the following night, and then cook it the following morning. Some flours I've found will be fine after one night, but let me show you one that's been in there for a couple of nights. Okay, so that's 2 nights in the fridge. So, you know, forget a proving drawer, forget putting it in an airing cupboard. That's actually done that in the fridge, nice and slowly, but it is alive. So now I'm going to fire up the oven, and when that's heated up to its maximum temperature, it will be ready to go in. Now that, for my oven, is about 250 degrees C. Every oven is different and you need to learn your oven. Now what about ovens? I use a baking stone. Baking stone is really good because it heats the dough from underneath, otherwise you can end up cooking the top but not the bottom. So get yourself a baking stone. I had a bit of old marble from my last kitchen which I sliced to the right size. Marble's not ideal because it can break up, which is a bit of a problem, but granite is best. But you know, I look after my bit of marble and it's served me well. Let me show it to you. Here it is. Now, I don't know, what is that, 15 mil? You can get 30 mil thick pieces because they retain the heat, that's the point. A 30 mil one will retain more heat, and if you're going to do a bigger loaf, like that's what I call a single loaf, if you want to double the size of your loaf, you really need a 30 mil bit of marble or granite to hold that heat that much longer. So I'm going to put that back in the oven. I'll come back when that's preheated. That's going to take 45 minutes. See you soon. I'm back. 45 minutes and the oven's heated up. Got this pizza thing for delivering the dough into the oven. So the first thing to do is get some coarse semolina and sprinkle that in the target area. Coarse semolina, I buy big bags online. It's hard to get in the supermarket for some reason. Here it is, fresh out of the fridge. This one looks a little bit too big. I think it might have been in the fridge for a little bit too long. So tip that out, it won't come out easily. Oh, there it is. Now, here it is. Razor blade on a stick. It's got a name, don't know what it is. Practice. Getting the cut as you like it. Making a meal of this. I like to cut it to the end, but cut it deeper in the middle. Right, now this is going in the oven. Now I want to introduce you to my tent. Crust will get very, very thick in a normal oven, unless you've got a posh one that injects steam. So I made this tent out of coat hangers and tin foil, and that keeps the humidity in, delays crust production, and allows your loaf to grow bigger as your yeast goes wild with its end of the earth party. So I'm going to put that in there, but first I'm going to pour a little bit of water in there and put a little bit of water in a steel mug to keep it all humid. I use hot water. There it goes. And here goes the tent. Close that up. 30 minutes. It's going to be in there for 30 minutes. It's not really crucial if it's in there for a little bit longer, but what will happen is the crust will just get thicker and harder. So depends how you like it, but I think if you get a too hard a crust, if you subsequently toast it, you're going to get things a bit burnt. So, you know, you have to practice. Every oven is different. My oven is a range master. It makes a crazy noise, as you can hear. And I've operated it almost daily at full temperature for about 4 years, and then the other day one of the elements packed up and the clock melted. So that was 200 quid to have repaired. Apparently that is only to be expected. I'm back, it's been half an hour, probably 35 minutes, and the bread should be cooked, so it's the great reveal. Moving over to the cooker, grab a tea towel. Turn the cooker off to silence it. Remove the tent. Remove the metal mug with water. Here we go. And there it is. Well, it's very rustic. Some come out in a better shape, but all in all, I think that's about 8 out of 10. You may disagree. So there we are. It's rustic, it's crusty, but what you'll find is if you wrap it like a newborn baby in a couple of tea towels and leave it, the crust will come softer. There you go, give it an hour and that will be ready to eat. Thank you very much for watching. Hey, I'm back. I'm back because it occurred to me you might like to see what it was like inside, so I've had that there now for at least an hour. And breadboard. Yeah, it is to warm up. So we're going to saw it straight down the middle. You can hear it crunch. Here we are. Not too bad. I'm okay with that. It'll taste nice, that's for sure. Put it back together and I'll never notice. Thank you very much once again. Bye.